This is not going public, is it?
Welcome to La Casita Martinez, where we indulge in the art of deep conversation and vulnerability in pursuit of self-love, self-expression, and self-value. I am your host, Samantha Martinez. On this week's episode, we're talking to my friend, Brandon Hynson, about his journey towards self-love and self-acceptance as a Black male. What do you love about yourself?
Oh, I love this question. I love my smile as I just smiled, but I love
And you didn't have braces, which I just found out. That's crazy to me.
No, I never had braces. Not saying anything bad about people that have braces, but
Hi.
I made it to the show, Sam.
I'm so excited because you will be a regular on
Yes.
La Casita Martinez.
So get used to seeing me and listening to my voice.
Yes, and seeing your beautiful face. So I wanted to start this episode with how we became friends and something about me that, I don't know, some people may know or may not. I can tell within 2 minutes if I'm going to be friends with someone. Like, if your vibes are right, if our vibes connect, I know quickly, right? And that doesn't mean I'm like mean or like write someone off if they're not, but I'm like, okay, now I'm going to pour energy into this relationship because I feel like we would be friends. And I'm very particular with who I'm friends with. I have a very close circle because I want to always be authentic. Like, I don't ever want to be fake. And with you, we met at a teacher onboarding orientation. You were the only Black male teacher, right? And so we were both coming from New York, which we didn't know until we did introductions. And I was like, hold up. And then, but your face was just like, don't talk to me. I'm here to work. I'm not here to make friends. Keep it moving. RBF. And I was like, this is going to be my friend. And I broke that shell. And here we are.
You did. And it's not easy. It is not easy to break that shell with me. And we can go into why, in a bit, but it's not that easy. But you did a really good job, and you were consistent.
Of course, because I knew it. I know my intuition. 2 minutes, I'm like, okay.
And it's almost like a touch of discernment. Like you can discern the energy of someone else, and that could be the spiritual side, but at the same time, you just feel the vibe.
Right.
So it's almost like when you do, I guess, that dance where you then send the energy and the wave to the next person. You just knew.
Yeah.
And I was even paying attention to that. I'm like, why do I got to sit in this orientation and what's next? And let me just get through all these little things to get back to what I really need to be doing as a teacher.
Right.
But yes. And
so
here we are today.
Brandon Hynson, my BFF. Tell us, who is Brandon?
Brandon is, I call myself an onion, but now I'm going to say a cabbage. You're laughing,
nasty.
but
don't pick onion.
Okay, but they're healthy, and so is cabbage. And cabbage gives me gas, but
but I think gives you bad breath.
It does. But so in the context of layers,
okay,
we all are like layered in some way. But I feel like I unravel a layer every year, every day, every week. There's something new I'm learning about myself. But Brandon is educated. He's funny. He's a light. He's joyous. He's positive. He's just so many more things than just what people see and realize. My grandmother just told me, I think 2 weeks ago, she's learning so much about me now. I'm like, I love that because...
And I think that's because you're learning so much about you.
And actively choosing to show that.
To share.
And share, share is a better word, with the world. And say that this is who I am and this is who I've learned who I am. I'm confident in that, so accept it. And if you don't, I'll still be Brandon. But cabbage isn't like, I say cabbage because it's bigger than an onion, but there's so many deeper layers into the core of who I am that I didn't realize that I possessed. So the things I mentioned, they're great, but I'm learning so much more even outside of that. So Brandon is a whole lot.
So let me ask you, why was it when I met you and when other people have me? Because I'm not the first person to tell you that you come with like a guard. You have a very strong guard up. Why is that?
The easiest and quickest way to answer that question is over the years, I've built that wall and it's been cemented to the point where like people can't get through it, which is why I made the point. You did a very good job of being consistent and breaking that wall down piece by piece or brick by brick or however you want to look at it. And not letting people in And the reason why is because I was hurt so much by certain people in my life or that were not close to me that it made me just guard everyone, even family. It wasn't like there was no, exceptions. Like you are a person, you could hurt me. The wall's up.
Right.
Nothing is going to change that. But because of your persistence, and I would even say to give you shine, authenticity with just who you are, I felt comfortable enough to be who I am and start brick by brick or piece by piece letting you in. And now I feel like I tell you everything, and don't feel bad for it. Don't like have shame or guilt behind it. Just love to share. When in the past I would barely say maybe 7 words, to someone in introduction.
Yeah. But that's so beautiful about friendship. Like, who wants a friend that it's like, okay, here's a little piece, or on the opposite end, like pulling teeth. Like, tell me a little bit more. Like, I'm sure, and I've told you this before, I'm sure people have given up on a relationship with you, a friendship with you, because it's work.
Yes.
It's work to be your friend. But I knew I wanted to, and that it was worth it. So I did that work. Something that we share, we have a lot of things in common. I mentioned the New York thing. Spiritually, we're both people of faith, people of color, and educators, which is what I wanted to get to because I have a heart for educating children of color. And we've talked about this before, you as well. I mean, you're an excellent educator, but I have a heart for kids who are bullied, kids who are picked on in elementary school. Like, I do not stand for that. Tell us about when or the time that this started for you, where you, as a little Black boy, felt that guard. Because the guard went up when you were young.
Yes.
Right? Okay. Can you tell us about, because you have shared with me the day it happened, when it started.
Yeah, I think I definitely have shared that. And shout out to educators and education around the world, because education is not easy, but it's rewarding. I would say 5th grade was probably like a solid time that I realized that I was different. I came across to others as like not accepted in some ways or being made fun of. And I wouldn't say bully, because no one ever bullied me. I wouldn't even let that happen. But that's when I noticed the difference between friend groups and Black boys like me and other races and whatnot, and just having to unpack that as a 5th grader was hard. So that's when the foundation started for the wall building. So at that point, I'm starting to build a foundation, and you say 5th grade beyond, here I am now, a 32-year-old male. That wall goes way up. And it's built tough to last. So we're not talking about, the fairy tale, 3 Little Pigs. We're not talking about a wall of, a straw or clay. Brick. So it's hard to get through that. And to your point about losing relationships, yes, I think people probably have walked away because they're like, this guy is just something's up with him, or like something's wrong with him. And not realizing that we all have baggage, or we have things that we carry with us and where that comes from. But people that take time with that and be like, I'm going to get to know him because there's a reason why he's probably like that. And I want to know what that reason is so I can either support him, be his friend, or understand his journey.
And I think that's what it is for me, is understand. Because as educators, then I can apply that to other children.
Absolutely.
Right? And say, okay,
because I'm not the only one that was going through that. I may have felt like it because it was just me in my own brain or my head thinking about it. But now as an adult, I'm like, as a teacher, I'm like, all of these scholars around in this classroom, they all have their own journey.
Right.
But there is someone just like me in one of those classrooms right now, growing up, building that same foundation in that wall. Which is why people that are passionate about education like us and have that heart have the greatest impact.
Yeah.
Because we're not thinking about just the content that's being taught. We're thinking about the lives that are in front of us and what they're going through and what they bring to that classroom every day, including us as teachers.
Right.
Because we're coming in bringing stuff in. But yes, that wall was built since 5th grade.
Okay.
But now, I would even say to help you, I guess, transition, we're going to go to the next topic. The wall is being broken down. And there's a reason why.
Yeah.
Since 5th grade.
Yes. And on top of that, being a male, being a Black male, it's so taboo. I mean, in our communities, mental health, seeking therapy is stigmatized. But being vulnerable, showing emotion, being soft is not a thing in when you're a Black male, right? So how did that play a part into building that wall as well?
Growing up in church, I think I mentioned this to you, it's like you have to pray stuff away. You have a meeting with the pastor. You seek an elder or some adult that has wisdom or like has maybe traveled that journey or that path, and you try to figure out through their words what that's like. That was me. And I realized at that young age, this is not enough. So I didn't have therapy as a child. Like I never went through therapy. It wasn't encouraged. It wasn't something that was like, oh, we need to put him in therapy because he's depressed.
Right.
So I definitely went through depression. But I never had that moment where I was like, I need to go and speak to a doctor, some, professional or, medical provider or someone about how I was feeling. It was just don't share it with family, hold it all in, don't really know how to deal with these emotions. I wasn't a violent child, so I wasn't like throwing things and like beating people up and drawing some like really dark pictures, but I was internally dying inside.
Internalizing everything, yeah.
And did not have any like real places or people to go to say, this is what I'm going through. Can you help me understand how to deal with that? So I just kept building the wall. The wall just got even bigger. Like even when I would, let's say, confide in someone and say, this is what's going on, and maybe like dance around the subject or like stop at certain points, they can't really help you because they don't know what you're really saying.
Right.
You're saying, oh, I'm just sad. Well, why? Oh, I got made fun of at school today. Why? Having a a moment where you can't really say because you're like, well, if I tell you this, are you going to judge me and say, oh no, we don't talk about that in this family? Or are you just going to let it rock and like, oh, you'll be fine, or just we'll pray about it right now and then the Lord will take care of that? No, that's not it. There's so much more to that. And again, there's families that still kind of stay in that place where that's all they know. And I'm like, I knew as an adult now, I'm like, there's so much more that I need to be discussing and unpacking and going backwards to figure out why I was the way I was and how I got to this point, and making sense of like healing and that pathway to healing. And learning more about myself.
And I think it's so important to share your story because we know the numbers and the data around men and mental health, and they don't share their emotions and they don't seek therapy because they have to be the head of the households. They have to be the strong, type. They have to be this macho, masculine men.
I don't even add hyper masculine in the many spaces and families.
Which is so hurtful for the men, which then turns to the families. It hurts the people it affects the people they're close to if they're not okay. Just like anyone else, right? You can't pour into others if you don't have anything inside, for yourself. So I'm so happy that we're able to share your story and walk us through the journey. Like, when was it that you were like, okay, it's time to do this for myself, and kind of that journey that has led you to where you are now, where you are, at least with me, joyous and you're happy and you're always joking and a smile on your face and you're just like, you feel lighter, you light up a room. And of course, like your relationship with the Lord is a huge part of that, which I wanted to note that we both come from religious families. We have faith. And so it's not one or the other, it's both, right? So you absolutely, I believe, have to pray for peace, for joy, but you also have to act on it, right? And seek therapy or professional help. It's not one or the other. So walk us through that journey. How did you
gave me so much to respond to. I want to jump back to one tab and I'm going to jump back to another tab. I have a lot of tabs open in my brain. One thing I will say is, to the point about the hypermasculine part that you mentioned, is I was that young man that didn't fit that.
Okay.
So I wanted to touch on that because that's when I also realized that I can't even go to men that I think I can confide in, because if I say something that doesn't fit what they think as what a man should be, I'm automatically going to be judged or feel shame or guilt because I'm not even matching their energy and how a man should be perceiving themselves. Because I didn't grow up with a dad, so he was around, but I didn't really have a good relationship with him. I knew him, all of those things. But I missed out on a lot of that going to another male, and I would even say black male, to discuss what I was feeling. So because to that point about black men not knowing how to unpack emotions and deal with that, they then grow up being these human beings that don't know how to express emotions themselves, or even listen to someone that can even have them express emotions to them.
Yeah, so it's generational.
So I didn't fit that, exactly, generational. I didn't fit that box of like what a hyper masculine or a masculine male should be. So I definitely shied away from going to another male, specifically another black male anyway, to talk about a lot of issues I had. Journey, next tab, pandemic. During the pandemic, I realized, I said, I need a change. I think that's the time everyone slowed down and just had a lot of light bulbs come on. And one of my light bulbs that came on was the fact that I need to talk to a professional about my feelings, because I had to sit with myself. I was in Queens, New York, like literally in isolation. New York was definitely a scary place during the pandemic, but was like, I need to seek help. I need to seek help because if we're going to be living like this, like say for the next year or so, I can't be in this apartment just going crazy and just having all these emotions that I don't know how to process and like where this stuff coming from. So a really good friend of mine, calling my brother, reached out to me and gave me this link called Headway. And Headway was just a pathway for me to seek medical help, a therapist or a licensed, professional, to just talk about whatever. And even when looking, I had to look for certain parameters of like, who am I looking for in this therapist? Am I looking for a black male? Am I looking for someone that's also gay? Am I looking for someone that is only in New York? Am I looking for someone that's a therapist versus I guess there's a title that's therapist and there's another title that they use. Possibly, yeah. Okay. But they had these like filters. So I just searched and I said, okay, let me just find this black male. And he was the most unprofessional guy black man that I could meet that was supposed to be, like a licensed person to discuss these things. And I was like, oh, this is not it. And it reminded me of my childhood. I'm like, this is why I can't go to black men, because when I went to him, he was like questioning what I was saying, giving his opinion to me. And I'm like, I don't think you're supposed to be doing that. You're supposed to be listening and helping me, like questioning what I'm saying to help me go backwards and figure out where the root of this stuff is coming from. So when I realized I need to find someone else, I found another therapist and realized that this was great for me. I have an unbiased opinion, someone that does not know me. I'm starting from scratch, ground zero, and I'm going deep. Because I'm not one that's going to now I have to dance around the subject. Right. I want to tell you what's up. I want to give you the real, because and I told him to this day, and Brandon, shout out to you because that's his name. If you ever hears this, I said, listen, you have to ask me questions that are deep. You got to ask me questions that are going to make me think and go backwards. Meaning,
So you were telling your therapist what to do? This is how our session's going. This is what I want.
I'm not kidding.
I know you're not kidding.
Telling me about podcasts, books, websites to look at, that's nice. But we got to go deep. We have to talk about what I went through, because all those other stories are their stories. I got to tell you mine. So if you recommend me to go watch this show or this podcast, I will do it eventually, but we have to get down to who Brandon is and how did he get to this point. And I said that, and I mean, it sounds bossy and it sounds like ridiculous, but first of all, I'm like, I'm paying for this. Or my insurance is paying for this. But then second, like, listen, I don't want to be wasting an hour in a session of you just, I don't know, feeling me out. No, can I just let you know what's up? So ask me direct questions. Don't ask me questions that are going to be like, so how was your day? And how are you feeling right now? And what happened at work? And no, ask me what happened on that playground or, at the pool that day or, in fifth grade or when you realize whatever. So I can give you the real deal and we can really talk about what's happening and what's in his brain. So long story less long. The point I'm making is the pandemic opened up that I needed to get help. And I think just sitting in that silence of like just Brandon himself, no other distractions besides working from home, but nothing else going on. I had to sit with me. I was like, okay, let's take this step.
Let's do this.
And I didn't consult with anyone. I didn't ask questions. I didn't say, well, have you had a therapist? And what is it like? And do you like them? I didn't do any of that because I figured once I did that, people would get in my head and be like, well, no, don't do that. You don't need to talk to a therapist. Like, you're fine. You're always smiling because I'm the strong one. I'm the one that's supposed to be like, oh, let's pray. Oh, you'll be fine. Or, oh, it'll go away when you get up and everything will be okay. No, I was like, I gotta do this for me. So I just made the decision. I did the search, started having my sessions, and here I am. I think now, probably, I guess, 2.5 years in with Brandon. And even though it's still like web conferencing to how we meet, but it's so amazing to just be in a space that I can literally tell him what is going on. And it goes beyond just my day.
Right.
The past 2 weeks that we've met or the month, it goes way back to when I was 10 years old. And then we fast forward and go backwards and, go down the journey. But it's just such a blessing, I'll say.
So let me ask you this, because obviously we're huge advocates for therapy, seeking professional help, but that's once a week or however you schedule that time. What do you do on the daily that helps you with your self-love, joy, self-acceptance, and loving who Brandon is?
That's a great question. It's a good therapy question. So you mentioned, faith and spirituality and relationship with the Lord. Yes, that's like the core. So reading my, word and devotional and praying, that time is essential, to set the tone for the day. But even outside of that, I've now gone to the fashion of listening to podcasts, being educated, listening to other, concepts, well, not concepts, but perspectives about things that Black men go through. And surrounding myself with good people, being careful what I'm watching, what I'm listening to, journaling, like sitting and taking time to do gratitude, thinking about what I'm grateful for in that moment. And I'll share one now if I can. Yesterday I was like, God, thank you for never giving up on me, causing me to not ever give up on myself. Because at one point I did. Different episode, longer story, but I'll close that tab right now or hold it. But I will say I was like, thank you for not giving up on me. Because I didn't give up on myself. And I just sat with that for a minute and I was like, gosh, look at how far I've come.
Right.
And then it made me go deeper and think, well, what would I say to myself when I was 10, 16, 18, let's say 25, like those different ages when I can think back to some moments where I was like having some hard, dark places and struggled. And now I'm like this light that is so many light bulbs that come on that I'm like, I would never go back to that dark place ever again. So some of those little things that I just mentioned help me to get through the day, the week, the month, the year. And I'm not always journaling. I don't really have time because I'm in school right now, but it's things I do in like little short moments. And even if it's just a gratitude moment, that's just thinking. But then I say it out loud.
Right.
I express it verbally. And it's not like a long drawn out prayer, it's just literally thank you, Lord, for this thing.
Right.
Or Brandon, you did an amazing job at this. Sometimes I'm at the gym and I'm running or I'm lifting weights. I'm like, sheesh, you did that. Because
hyping yourself up.
Yes. Because, and if I can go even deeper, in the past, I would be like, oh, you're not good enough. You can't do that. You're not a runner. Like I started running during the pandemic, like serious running during the pandemic. And even thinking that, like really canceling myself out before I even try it. Oh, you're too big for that shirt. You can't wear a tank top. Look how you look right now. You look disgusting. I would speak so negative to myself. So I've had to flip that. Shout out to Mel Robbins because she taught me how to flip that. And the language that when you're, using, think about what it feels like when it's going to work out. Think about what it's like when you're actually going to enjoy that moment or whatever the thing is. But flipping my language and undoing a lot of the stuff that I, ingrained in my brain or in my speech years ago.
Because if you speak to yourself like that, you will allow other people to speak to you that way.
That's it. And accept it. And get so used
to
it. Yes. That's it. The believe it part. Believe it and get so used to it that you don't even see yourself on the other side of that. But during the pandemic, I'm like, you know what? On the other side of this is so much peace, joy, love, happiness. Even if it's temporary, like, happiness can be temporary, but even if it's for a short moment, it's on the other side. So I had to take that step. And if I never took that step, I wouldn't be on this couch speaking this way. I probably wouldn't even have signed up to do this.
Right.
Because I wasn't in that space. No, I wasn't in the space to like entertain spaces like this where I can talk about this and not feel bad or shame or even like be embarrassed. Be like, oh no, I'm not going to speak about that because that's not, something that we do. And that's what happens in families where there's a cycle of that. We don't touch that subject because we don't talk about it. And you never know why. And I'm like, well, why not? Why can't we, talk about, here I am as a male struggling in a school where I don't feel like I'm accepted because I'm different than other black males or I'm different than the group of friends that I'm in. Why am I not being celebrated for who I am? Highlighting that and then share with the world. That's where joy comes in.
Right.
And going back to education, that's where so many scholars, no one, get on this topic, but lose their joy so early in who they are because they realize that difference.
Yeah.
And when you realize the difference of like what you see or what you're around, oh, I must don't fit in. So I'm going to kind of dim my light and bring this down.
Right. Because they're not celebrated for being different. Sounds like we should start a school or something.
Yes, I agree.
And what I'm hearing from you is that it's so intentional. It's not just going to happen. It takes work.
It does.
You have to wake up every morning and put in the work. Just like if you want a great body, you have to put in the work. It's not just going to happen. If you want to get a degree, you have to put in the work, right? If you want this for yourself, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be a journey. But everything that I'm hearing from you is like you are intentional about being grateful. You are intentional about journaling, intentional about working out. I know you eat very healthy.
Yes.
Drinking water. You're so intentional about the steps that you're taking because now you're seeing the fruits of that.
Absolutely.
Right? Which is so beautiful. So my last question is, what do you love about Brandon?
Such a good question. And I have to say that I love that I am a giver. I love how I love people. I love how I love teaching, education itself. I love the inner being parts of me that I couldn't stand prior to me growing up into who I am now. I love how I look. Like you mentioned, I have straight teeth and didn't have braces.
Braces.
Shout out to those that had braces. No offense to those that still do. But it's one of those things that I realize that there's so much about me that I should be loving. How much joy I bring and how much of a light I am to other people's lives and how optimistic I am and positive and just what I share with others and spread that I didn't realize before that I didn't actually like about myself. But I love, love, love the inner parts of my personality. The fact that I laugh so much and I'm always laughing and making light of things, but also a serious person at the same time, it's just, and being so versatile and being able to adapt to settings is amazing. I love that I'm smart, educated and just being able to just be in certain spaces with other people and feel them out, but at the same time get on their level and get above their level or be around people that are above my level, but then still learn from them and just be, wise. But there's just so many, back to the cabbage, layers about me that I'm learning to love and learning to flip how I felt about myself in the past. So it's a lot of love about myself, but some of the big major things, yes.
Well, I love Brandon, and I'm so happy you were part of this episode and that you will be on this journey with me as my co-host. So we will see you on the next one.
All right.